can't see me. Let's go.
What up, y'all? You can't see me here today, back again. You already know what it is, man. Today we are back on Empyrion Galactic Survival. And let me say, man, Empyrion has become one of my favorite titles, man. Oh, the survival genre, definitely, but almost with any game, man. This game is so dope. So what I'm here today to do is talk about the top 10 things you should know when you're starting out in Empyrion, okay? Empyrion is a humongous game with a crazy learning curve. And there are a lot of little things that can become big problems. So these are some things I found after putting in, over 100 or so hours into the game. And this is 7.61, the alpha version. Just to let you know, alpha 8 will be dropping at some point, of course. I'm sure some of these things will still apply, but some will change, and I'll do another one for alpha 8. One other thing I want to say is a lot of people have different views. A lot of hardcore players feel like you should kind of learn everything, get your bumps and bruises on your own. Empyrion is the type of game where you got to find a lot of information on your own. You got to go to the wiki. You got to look up questions and posts and forums. You even got to look up videos. I joined 2 Empyrion Facebook groups, and I ask questions once or twice a week with other players to get information. So this is that type of game, man. There's a huge learning curve. So this is a great video that I think you'll find useful if you've been playing for a little while and you think you might have missed things, or if you're just starting out. All right. So let's get to the first one. So first of all, the first day in Empyrion, you should know that all enemies are passive unless provoked. Packs of velociraptors like these will not attack you. They don't attack you in the daytime anyway, but if you see one at night, they will attack you. But even at the nighttime, slimes or other enemies will not attack you. Now this does not apply to drones, okay? Drones, if you land your escape pod near a drone, you still may get attacked, all right? And this is only single player. Also, know that if you're on a multiplayer server, PvP, you can get attacked and murdered right out the gate, okay? So just be forewarned. So tip number 2 applies when you're constructing. This constructor or any constructor. And it's being aware of compatibility issues. So in Empyrion, you build bases, capital vessels, small vessels, and hover vessels. And you'll craft and construct different things. Well, some things have multiple uses or multiple designs for the different types of things you can construct. So you have a multiple constructor, for instance, there are 2 of them. Now you need to be aware that down that list it says placeable. It'll let you know which one you can place it in. Early on in my career, I made things like the oxygen tank right here. There's an oxygen tank for CV and a base, but then there's also an oxygen tank for the SVHV. I built the one for the CV and the base, and I tried to put it on my hover vessel and it wouldn't work, and I didn't understand why. It took a minute to find out that they are actually specifically made for different items. So look where it says placeable down under craft time, airtight energy, energy and mass, and you'll see placeable, and it'll say CV, BA for base, HV, or SV. Some things work on all, but some work only on specific items. The next tip is block placement, okay? Now there is a block space placement issue that I hope that they cover at some point, but maybe they won't. Being that this is one of those voxel type games, everything is based on blocks. You see these different blocks, okay? When you place your refrigerator, it's on a block. Anything you place will be on a block or multiple blocks like the constructor. So things like walls and windows are taking up a full block, even though it doesn't look like it and I can walk on it. You have to be aware of that, because depending on which way you turn your block, let's put this heart of steel down for instance, you can't place it. So do you see how here I'm trying to place this block? You see how it hops out at me? It will not let me place it beside these windows. The reason it won't let me place it beside these windows is because the window, when I placed it, is facing outward. It's facing this way. In fact, I'm gonna make a wall just to show you a better example. So you see how this wall is showing it's taking up a full block? And even if I rotate it around, it's still taking up a full block. So nothing else can use this space. Now, this was most noticeable to me when I was actually planning, because if you make a greenhouse and you face this window this way, it will not let you plant anything on this block. And I learned that I couldn't figure out why it would not let me plant it. It took hours into the game to learn this concept, all right? So be aware that any block takes up a space. It also happened when I was trying to place a refrigerator. I was like, why can't I place this fridge by the wall? And when you're in early game, you're using a POI or whatever, it will throw you off like, what is wrong? So be aware of block placement. Next, we have the letter N, and it's important. If you press the letter N, it will give you the option for building mode and debug mode. Building mode will allow you to do techniques like use the symmetry plane, and I'll show you how this works. So if you click symmetry plane, when using this method, if you hold down left mouse click, you can move where the plane starts. And what it does is it allows you to build. If I hit escape, anything on that plane will build on both sides. You see that? So it helps you to keep the symmetry perfect when you're building. This works for vehicles and for bases. Now, when using the debug mode, you get to see the center of mass on a vehicle, structural integrity. It'll show you the strong or weak points of your structure. It'll show how much oxygen is in your base, and it'll show if your base is airtight or you have airtight blocks. These all help with building and with constructing, and they're really cool. So the letter N will help you with your building and debug modes, and they're very useful modes. My next tip is the letter P. This is another important button that you should be aware of. The letter P is useful on your base because it brings up your main control panel. The control panel can be accessed from anywhere as long as you're within your base or inside a vehicle. You can see your hit points, your ammunition, oxygen, fuel, and you can actually refill them. I can hit manage. Say I wanted to add more oxygen, I can manually add oxygen, which I don't have any right now, and I need that. Or I can manage my fuel. And I can take these fuel capsules, put one in, bam. You can do it all from right there. And I can go back. Or I could just hit fill all and it'll do it all at once. I could do that with the oxygen, but I don't have any right now. You can also turn your power off and on, your oxygen, your lights. You can see your devices from here. And one of the cool things you can do with seeing the devices is I could construct from right here. If I go down to the constructor, I need to put these in groups, but if I go to the advanced constructor, hit access, I can construct from right here. That is great. So you can do it from anywhere on your base if you have a huge base, instead of having to manually run all the way over to the constructor and hit the button. The other thing you can do when you hit P is if you're good with signals and signal logic, you can manage all that from here. Connecting switches to doors or lights or things of that nature, and you can see the stats for your base, your general headquarters stats, how big it is, how many blocks you're using, your fuel consumption, your oxygen consumption, your attack defense, and the amount of resources that have gone into your base, and then also your cargo boxes and things of that nature. Now, one other useful thing that you should know with P, so when you've built a base, you might put hundreds of lights up or multiples of any item that you place. If you look at a light per se and you want to change it because it's too bright, if you hit P while looking at the item you want to use, it'll be directly on that item. So you say I have 50 lights, 60 lights. I don't have to try to individually find the right one. But that is one of the great things about the letter P. And the letter P also works on your vessels. Just get close enough to it, hit P, and you can access your vessels the same way. So I can see my Gatling gun, or I can check my mobile constructor, hit access. These are all the items that are in my mobile constructor. I have a fridge on this vessel. I can see what's in there. Add food, take food out. So I used to think I had to jump all the way in the cockpit every time and press P, but you do not have to do that. And that's one of the great things about the letter P. All right. Now, our sixth tip is POIs. POIs are a great source of loot and parts for building or reverse engineering. The POI that you start out with when you first start the game and you do your first tutorial, it'll send you to a POI. That is a great place to start and set up your base. My current base actually was a POI that I stayed at and expanded. And the POI in single player, at least for now, usually stays safe until you build your actual base with the base building block. So yes, go to POIs, tear them down, conquer them, take them over, raid them, and those parts are actually great parts for building things like CVs or your base. So currently Empyrion doesn't have reverse engineering, meaning you built up some blocks or you built up items, but you want to break them back down for their resources. But if you hit F2, this brings up the blueprint factory. The blueprint factory allows you to build already made templated bases, vessels, etc. You see these different ones that they have. The game comes stock with some, and then you can go to the Steam Workshop and download more. And people make really great vessels. This was made by someone in my Facebook group. So when you're reverse engineering, let's say you go raid a POI and you get things like this hardened steel blocks. These hardened steel blocks have some rare resources in them, but how do I get them out? So I go to the factory, I choose something that doesn't have the resource in it that I want, something simple. This has iron, copper, and silicone. So I choose this and go to the factory. Now, what I do is take these steel blocks, or I take this hardened steel block. Now watch what happens when I put one in here. It uses what it needs for iron and copper, but then the rest goes into my inventory, sathium. So sathium is a resource that goes into hardened steel blocks, and that's the way to reverse engineer them out. Go to a POI, break it down, or anything, a vessel, anything that you've built in general, and put it in here, and you'll get the resources out besides the one that it needs for the blueprint. So just remember that if you ever want to reverse engineer. Hopefully in the future they'll make an item that you can craft for your base that will allow you to reverse engineer. Now for tip number 8, I want to revisit something that we looked at when we were looking at the letter P. That's lighting, intensity, and color. Now this game takes lighting into the game so much that things like lights on your vessel can shine through the wall, and part of that is somewhat of a glitch that they're working on, but the intensity of lighting can be blinding sometimes if it's too bright. So for instance, if I hit P on this light, if the intensity was up very high and it's white, sometimes it shines so bright that it's blinding. And then when you have multiple lights in a base, it can just get very hard on the eyes. So make sure that you either use less lights or you turn down the intensity on these lights and the range to help those glares and those lighting effects from disturbing your visual experience on the game. I'm telling you, you start building lots of lights. I had to turn down lots of these lights just so I could see in here. It was so overpowering with the brightness. So just be aware of that and use it to your advantage. So for the knife tip, is your color tool and your texture tool. Now, you wonder how I made my base blue instead of the standard gray that the block comes in? That's the color tool. The color tool allows awesome customization. So I have it on right now, and if you right click, you can choose the different colors. So let's say I want to make this red. I can paint across and make it red. And you can hold it. Or if I want to make a C, whoop, that's not a C. If I want to make a square. I was going to make a C for You Can't See Me, but it didn't want to work with me. Let's make a little, nah, I ain't gonna have enough room. Oh yeah, let's make a C. You see that for You Can't See Me? You can do that with the color tool. The texture tool lets you do all these different textures. So if I wanted it to look like a brick wall in here, and there are so many texture types. Then I can go back over and color the texture. If I wanted to really look bricky, boom, make it red. I think that's one of the cooler elements within this game. And you can even paint the light fixtures. And you can also color your vehicle. So your level of customization is endless. I mean, it's amazing what they put into this game and what you can do. Oh, that's a different red. but that's cool. We're gonna work with it. So use your color tool and your texture tool and have a great time customizing your base. So tip number 10 is the best way to level up and gain experience. Now actually fighting enemies gets you the most XP, but that's very dangerous. So the safest way to do it is to pluck and harvest. And you can do that in the wild, just be careful of enemies, or you can do that in a garden. So as you make huger gardens, and every time you harvest, you get 300 XP. Boom, 300, 300. So if I go through and continue to pluck, I'm gonna get over 10,000 XP in one pluck. It may be more than that, maybe 20,000. So instead of putting yourself in danger and when you're needing to go up and level up and get lots of XP, just come up to your greenhouse and pluck all of the resources that you need. You'll get food, or you'll get ingredients for food, but you will also get tons of XP. I mean, look at that, 300, 300, 300. So these are my 10 tips that will help you when starting out in Empyrion Galactic Survival. Now there are more things that can help you within the game because this game is so huge, it is so complex. But these are just basic things, that stumbling blocks that it took me a while to find out when I first started with the game, all right? So leave me some tips. If you know some other tips, some better tips for helping beginners, leave them in the comments, okay? Leave me some comments if you see that I forgot something, or if you have something that you found out that helped you along your journey, okay? You can see me, Empyrion Galactic Survival. Yo, we sharing them tips and we helping one another, man, and that's what we do in the Empyrion community. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so. And above all things, you know what you must do. Make your next move your best move, all right? Peace.
You can't see me. Let's go.
Thank you for checking me out at You Can't See Me TV. I'm You Can't See Me Gamer. Please like and subscribe to stay updated, and check me out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All right, peace.